Welcome, everyone. My name is Tina from Quantum Healing with Tena and Karen, if you haven't been here before. And today we're here with Karen, of course, and our beautiful friend, Natalie Zacharias. Is that how you say your last name? Yeah. And Liv Wheeler. So, welcome, guys. I would love for you to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do. Who wants to start?
I knew you were
Yes, that's you, Natalie.
I'll go first. Hello, my name is Natalie Zacharias. I'm currently calling from occupied Lenape lands in what's called New Jersey. And first and foremost, it's so much fun to be with y'all here. It's such a joy to connect and yeah, just grateful for the space. I am, so what am I? I am a certified emotion code practitioner, a coach and a mentor, and a multidimensional being. I'll just leave it as that. It leaves a lot of space for a lot of things because that's what I am. And yeah, it's such a pleasure to be here with y'all to connect and looking forward to diving into whatever we're diving into today.
And you have a master's in psychology, Natalie?
I do have a master's in integral counseling psychology from the California Institute of Integral Studies.
Wow.
It was actually
cool.
when I was out in California getting my master's that I met Liv in this lifetime.
Oh, how
Nice.
lovely. And I love that you do emotion code too, because I've been drawn to that like throughout the years.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating healing method because I'm in my mid 30s and energy healing was introduced to me when I was 12 years old. And it's really funny when I think about it because it's like the possibilities of that happening just didn't feel, it just was very like divinely timed because I was in a Catholic school and I went to Catholic school for like a long time. And it was my best friend's mother was what's it called, a Reiki master. And one of my religion teachers was also a Reiki master. And then so I was
Wow.
introduced, yeah.
Catholic religion?
Oh yeah. Oh
Wow.
yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And I was introduced to Reiki energy healing through her. And then very soon after, I ended up meeting this curandera from Mexico, who her family had another curandera healer who would come up. And so she introduced me to, I don't even remember what it was called because it was so long ago, but it was just another type of energy healing modality um, that now when I look back, I'm like, oh, we would go into like this quantum space together for hours. And she would work on me. And she only spoke Spanish. And at the time, I only spoke English. So we were like trying to learn how to communicate together, which was interesting. Um, but yeah, it's just so fascinating. So when I learned about emotion code, I already had this background of like different types of energy healing. And so I was like, oh, this is so accessible. Like those other things you have to like train. Like you have to really like
Yes.
um, there's like a lineage and a study and it takes a long time. But emotion code is something that's accessible, which I think is so cool. And it's because of Liv that I even found out about emotion code.
Oh, wow.
And I remember being like, because I tend to approach things like, what is this? let me see.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, discernment. Like, I've learned. What would you say?
So you have strong, yeah, I totally agree. You have super strong discernment.
Yeah, and so like even if someone who I trust wholeheartedly tells me something, I'm still gonna discern like, what does this feel like, and be curious. And um, it took me a while because you had told me about it like months and months before I was like, oh, I see. Okay, I get it now. I need to learn this. This is important. And it feels very much like a nice modality that allows for all of me to be present, if that makes any sense. Um, and it's a really cool, it's fun. I like it.
What was the training like for that?
Well, I did the training. You can do the training. Well, actually, you used to be able to do the training in live seminars.
Mm.
So you would go and spend, it was like a 3 or 4 day weekend, and for hours they would go through all the different ways to. Dr. Nelson talks about muscle testing a lot. So he really like, for a large part of the training is like going through all the different ways to muscle test, and then like explaining the modality itself, and then you practice, and then to get their certification itself, like after you do the training part and understand like all these different things, um, you have to do, I think it's 30 clients, and take notes, and they have like, it's kind of similar to when I was getting my master's. Like we had like your training and you had practicum, so you would like work with clients and practice like the thing that you learned, and have a supervisor who would like look over and be like, okay, yes, no, do this. And so it was very similar in that sense. um, and then once you complete your hours, they review all your like paperwork basically, and then you get your certification, and then they're like, here, you're off into the yeah.
Is it something you can do like from a distance as well? Because I know some people do. Yeah.
That's what I do. All my healing is
Yeah.
from a distance, and this was before pandemic. And it is, so there's things that, remember before I was like, oh, it's a modality that allowed for me to like integrate all of who I am. So because I have also like a background in psychology, I also have a background in like, when I met Liv, not even when I met Liv, but when I was going to school in my master's, like Liv was one of the many professors that showed up in like what I call like spirit school.
Did you call her a nutty professor? That's what I heard. I was like, whoa.
Sometimes I'm like a nutty professor. Sometimes when I Liv.
I was like, I love that.
That's awesome.
Definitely a plastic.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
My nutting. Totally.
But, be serious.
Sorry.
Good. I'm totally using that going forward. No, but I just understood, like, there's containers and there's space and protection and all these different things that like is not necessary, at least when I did the training for emotion code, it wasn't necessarily like a focus of that. I don't know if it's changed since then. So whenever I do energy, like it's called proxy healing. So my body, I'll connect with people energetically. I always ask for permission, then we connect energetically, and then once we're connected, I don't know how to describe it, but it's just like I get a feeling in my body of like, okay, we're on. And I always like, in the beginning of sessions, I always walk us through like a meditation. And then the purpose of that is really to like, we're stepping into sacred space together. There's boundaries to this space, calling in your guides and guardians. We're connecting to the earth, because for me, it's important to bring that like level of attention that when we heal, we're healing the earth as well. And so like being very purposeful, like connecting with the earth, in gratitude, saying sorry because we fucked up, and also being like, can you please help us? Like, help us with this, and use whatever is getting released in order to create more life and beauty. And that's that particular meditation is something that I was basically guided to do as like a way to open the container. And yeah, it's a very, I love the process because it's different every time. And every person I connect with, like sometimes with some clients, it'll be very vivid. I'll get like very clear images of things. And I'll be like blown away by it because it's so beautiful, the things that, you can see. And then sometimes I'll have like body sensations or like hints of things. So it's a very dynamic experience, which I'm sure you both experience also with your quantum healing, how dynamic, and it's not the same. I don't think I'll ever be bored doing this work.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, for people who don't know, can you explain a little bit about what it actually is and how it works?
Yeah, totally. So emotion code, it feels, so to use like an analogy, to compare, like, let's say Reiki energy healing to emotion code. For me, Reiki has always felt like an energy bath or like a shower. And it's like, it feels really good and it just like goes through the body, and it's like, it's nice.
Yeah.
Uh, Whereas emotion code for me feels very much like, I would almost compare it to energy surgery, where you're like focusing on a particular thing, you're like going and extracting out.
Mhm.
The image that comes to mind is like, there's a body of water and there's bubbles at the bottom, and those would be like the trapped emotions, which are like trapped energy essentially in the body. And we're tapping into the subconscious as the way to enter into this body of water. And as I ask the questions, like the yes or no questions, to kind of get to the bottom of what it is, those bubbles, they start to go to the surface, and I'm removing like the seaweed, I'm removing any obstacles that are in the way to allow them to fully come to the surface. and
Mhm.
and once they come to the surface, like that bubble is, it's done, it's completed its experience. And so that's like probably the best way to describe what it feels like, emotion code versus something like Reiki and energy healing. And yeah, so I ask questions to identify. We'll focus on something. There'll be a particular thing we're focusing on for the healing, and then I'll ask yes or no questions to identify what the emotion is. It could be regular emotions. It could be ancestral, things that you inherited. Um, it could be what's called psychic traumas, which are more than one trapped emotion. So they're kind of like clusters.
Mhm.
Um, and then there's preconception, which are like past life. And so all of those are, the types of trapped emotions that could come up in a session. Um, and yeah, and so you just clear them as much as your subconscious is willing to clear, and
Yeah.
then and then and then you're done for this session. And they're pretty quick sessions. They take about 30 minutes max. And the healing itself is probably maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes of those 30 minutes, because I like to check in with the person before and then kind of check in afterwards, and encourage everyone to drink a lot of water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet.
I was like, drink a lot of water.
Yeah. 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 I love that. And it's like such a like quick and easy way to do that kind
Yeah,
of work.
yeah.
So what do your clients usually come to? Like what kind of issues do they come with?
Oh man, it can be so many. There's well, there's something called the heart wall. So it's a very common thing that people come to like have cleared. And the heart wall is basically like a barrier that your heart has created, because of some kind of trauma that you experienced.
Mhm.
And trauma not being like, it doesn't have to be like very big trauma. I mean, having a friend betray you when you're a young kid could feel like trauma. And so it could be anything, there's
Mhm.
trauma looks a lot bigger than what we have, defined it in the past.
Mhm.
And then, so people tend to want to clear the heart wall first. And sometimes you actually can't clear anything else until you clear the heart wall. And the way that I always like to describe it is, the heart wall for me feels like a boundary that was created from a wound. And it's good to have boundaries, it's good to have energetic shields, but like,
Mhm.
let's clear the ones that come from the wounds, then you can have a more like intelligent boundary, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
um, but then there's some people that come for like particular wounds that they're working on, um, some like body things, like I've had people with eczema, like different pains in their back, all through their body. I've used it for pain in my foot. um, You could have relationship issues. That's a big one. It's actually really beautiful how that works. Like relationship patterns are just like actual issues with another person. Depression, anxiety. I know I haven't had any client show up with this, but there's people who use emotion code to help with autoimmune diseases. Um, that's actually something that in the training Dr. Nelson talks about. He's had a lot of clients with like fibromyalgia who
Mhm.
utilize emotion code and have like experienced a lot of relief. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, sometimes people have like their children. They want their children to have some support. I love working with kids. It's always, it's never on the phone with them because uh, they're kids. So it's usually I'll tune into their energy. So to do that, they'd have to send me like the picture, their birthday, and the name of their child, and then I'll like tune into the energy and do the healing from afar. I've also like you could use motion code with pets. I have my godmother's her German Shepherd. My godfather had died, and my godmother, like, she was grieving. The dogs were grieving. The German Shepherd was particularly grieving. And when I was doing my practice sessions, I got to work on him. I was at the house and I was working on him. And to see the difference in just one session with that German Shepherd, I mean, I could cry thinking about it. It was such a cool, like, 180, completely different experience. The dog went from like moping around and like just sad to like losing his owner to the next day we were like running around playing and like so much joy. It was really that was really cool.
I love that so much. And animals are such a great example of how it works because they don't have any of the conscious mind blocks that we do, you know.
Yeah, it was grief. That's what we were focusing on. And I remember he was sitting next to me when I started working on him. And then once we started getting into it, he just like laid down onto my leg. And I like, because this is the beginning of me doing this, I was like, is this happening? Is this really happening? This is happening. I'm like, okay, keep going. It was so sweet. Oh, such a sweet. But yeah, that's some examples of some things that folks come to heal. I basically because everyone's like, can we do this? I'm like, listen, we just ask the question. Your subconscious is going to tell us whether it's yes or no. Right. It could be the most like obscure thing. If that's what's coming up for you, let's just ask. Like, there's no pain in asking. If it's a no, then no. Then we figure something else out. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of what I tell people when they come for a quantum healing session. Like you have all these ideas of what you want or what you think you need, but then your higher self's going to give you
something else.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, same thing. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. I really love that. Karen and I have experimented a little bit with emotion code in the past, even on our pets. So that was fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Fun. I'm always so grateful for Liv for introducing emotion code to me because it's like it's a really fun it's a really fun practice.
Yeah, I can tell.
And I'm like experimenting. I keep thinking of like because there's like a form to it, but I feel like there's enough like space to be creative with it as well. Mm-hmm. And so I always find myself like, how else can we use this? Like, what else can we use this?
Yeah.
Like, what else can we do with this?
Right. Yeah, that's beautiful. I can definitely feel like your love and your passion for it, which is beautiful.
Yeah, thanks.
Beautiful. So Liv, I was reading a little bit of your book. I'm about halfway through, and I just,
What happens? What happens in the book?
Well, I find it fascinating, like your journey into shamanism, and do you call it that? Do you call it shamanism?
Some days.
Some days.
Some days I do. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it feels like priestessing. Sometimes it feels like shamanism. It feels like shamanism to me, in some of the like earthier, like Natalie was talking about too, some of like the earthier expressions. And yeah, so I feel somewhere in between that it's like really enjoying existing with the celestial realms. And then also like I have the super earthy, Natalie and I have connected in a lot of these places and spaces in Mongolia and in different places where we're just with like the raw wilderness. So I experience myself somewhere in between, and so sometimes I do talk about it in a like a shamanic kind of way.
Yeah, I find it really fascinating. Excuse me, like your journey and into that world. And like I was telling you on your YouTube video the other day, like I was just at the part where you were learning how to use the divining stick, And like meeting the Kintumle in the physical, like that was like, wow. I didn't even know that was like possible. Do you want to tell us a little bit about like what that journey's been like for you?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Let's see. Yeah, it was interesting when you commented that on the YouTube channel. It was kind of wild because that's what with us all connecting recently. Then I was like, whoa, we're all like really, I don't know, we're having tea in the astral or something like that.
Well, Karen was having dreams about us. Karen was having dreams about us.
We really must be doing that. I
Yeah.
know. Yeah, we really must.
You guys actually were in my dream last night, but I'll.
Okay, we'll get to that.
Who was in your dream?
All three of you.
Yeah, I really feel like that. I really feel like we are in some like stream or something, the ether, just steadily. I don't know what, but so when I woke up and I hadn't like thought about the stick in a while, I was like, why am I thinking about this? And I was gonna. The spirits were telling me make this video and whatever, and so I was like going outside and like I think I can find a stick, so I was like negotiating with nature. This is negotiations with nature. Being like, I wasn't seeing any readily apparent stick, and then so I was, tree, would you like, I was making offerings, would you like to release a stick? I was like making offerings and feeling, I was like, no, it doesn't want to. It was a whole process until finally a giving tree gave me a stick. But yeah, that was, I believe, it's like the goddess was coming through. I don't know exactly what happened, and then it had me making that video and that whole thing happened. But your question was about like connecting with the Kintumle in Burkina.
Yeah,
it was wild because it was a super serendipitous way of how I had connected with my longtime teacher Melodoma Samay, who was, interestingly enough, was in my dream last night. I mean, it's like the clue falls from out of it. Was, it's, you just like, how can you, act like it's not happening?
yeah.
It falls into your hand. You're like, okay, I get it. Like that's go find him. And then, so when I started reading his book, that was, I don't know, like, how did I know the Kintumle were real? I don't know, the little people. I don't know how I knew that. I just knew when I was reading his book, I couldn't stop reading it. I was like, going through it in 2 or 3 days. I read it, and I was regularly having these, like, almost saying out loud, like, I knew they were real. How did I know that? I don't know. It was 26 or 27 or something at the time. I was just like, I knew they were real. And I think it's similar to what Natalie was talking about, what you all, I think, experience in the healing work that you do. It's like that deeper part of ourselves that's always there and always knows. It's not the head knowing, but it's the body knowing. It's the knowing that happens from such a deep place. And I just knew they were real. And I also knew, I was like, that's my teacher. Where is he? I gotta find him. Thankfully, there was the internet. I was like, where is he? And then I had to, like, somehow, find money. Money to get there. How do I find money? That felt like a mirror, it was like try rubbing sticks together. Like praying for a miracle. I need money. But yeah, and so and then like fast forward, and I was working and studying, and really I felt like I was remembering with Melodoma, and there was something about his soul presence that it was just waking up things in my being. And then when I would go to Burkina Faso, West Africa, where Melodoma is from, connecting with the Dagra people there, the tribe that he's from, he knew he knew, he knew, he knew much more than he knows much more than I still do know, as much more than I still have remembered. But I would see the way he would look at me, and he was like, she'll get it eventually, and I haven't yet. I'm in the journey. I was like visiting in my dreams. I'm like, I know I haven't got it yet. Working on it though, have heart, like really like persevering. He knew, and somehow people there knew things, and they knew me somehow. But and then after going there a couple of times, it was really wild. Like I would notice that each time I would go to Burkina, different things would like get activated or initiated in my being, and there would be lessons or learning. And I remember one time before the upcoming trip to Burkina, I was telling Maladoma, like, I really want to, I want to go to the Kuntumle caves. I had read about it and everything. I was like, I want to meet them in the flesh, I wanted to like have that experience. And he was like, why do you want to do that? And I was like, because it would be cool. Like, that's the wrong reason. That's the wrong reason to do it. And I was like, jeez. But then he was right, it was the wrong reason. So, but as it turned out, during that trip, it was a short trip too. That was the shortest trip yet. I think it was just like 2 or 3 weeks, and there was like a whole adjustment that's needing to happen when you go to Burkina. From at that time, I think I was living in San Francisco. There's a massive adjustment that your being needs to undergo, because it's such a dramatically different reality. It's such a dramatically different reality, like through and through on every level. And there, not only do they know that the ancestors are, and the hidden, or the so-called hidden realms, are responsible for everything that you're seeing in the physical. Like that's what they live, and they've been living it for generations upon generations upon generations. And you don't even need to talk about it. You can feel it in the atmosphere, and it changes you like on a cellular level. It's pretty deep. But and so we were able to go to the caves, and it was a fascinating, like there was all so many things that I learned along that journey or experience too. Is that the Maladam, I've heard him talk about gatekeepers before, which the way that we would define that, it would be like a crude translation. And also a lot of like gatekeepers are what would be considered like gay, bisexual, like transgender, like people that are not like in a defined, but he's talked about that before too, that it's like here we're defining that in a sexual way, but they're understanding that in a deeper spiritual way that is important for the stabilization of the earth, actually. And so to have those, because if you feel it frequency, to have those frequencies aligned in such a way, and those frequencies have the capacity to actually open up gates to the other world, not only energetically, but physically. So imagining like a cave wall actually like cracking open. I experienced that, I mean, it's not in the etheric, it happens in the physical. Wow. And so these particular gatekeepers were destined to be at that particular portal, stargate, however it is. Not other ones would work for that. Not some person could choose themselves for that place. That was fascinating to me. Like they have such deep understanding, and you imagine and you translate that into the ways that we define, all of these things. And then what are we missing by only defining it at the, the physical expression of it? Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So so we're there, and the gatekeeper started, and this was when I was kind of still in my process of remembering in the candomblé. They weren't speaking through me in that way at that point, nor did I think that was going to happen, nor did I particularly want that to happen. You know, like truth be told, I knew that somehow I knew that was such a responsibility that I didn't want, you know. I didn't, but they choose you. You know, the spirits choose you. They chose us. I'm saying us all because that's what they're saying right now anyway. But and so the gatekeeper, he started doing the invocation, and it was like the cave wall was like rock opening. And then because I was in a particular point of my remembering, and the Cantumli energy was so strong, I was like, my knees gave out, and I was like grieving and grieving and grieving. And it was and then the gatekeeper stopped, and he was like, is she okay? And they were saying, oh, she just gets really emotional around the Cantumli.
Wait, the human said that, or the candomblé said that?
Oh, the gatekeeper, he stopped what he was doing, and he was genuinely concerned. He was like, is she okay?
Well, who answered him? Was it the human with you, or was it candomblé?
It was a human. It was a human, and they were saying, oh, she just gets really emotional. Like my knees, I couldn't even stand. But anyway, when they came in, and you could hear them so loud, and they were there physically. And that was a big eye opener for me, because when that happened, we were all too scared to do anything. We were all just like in fear. I mean, and that's Melodin was exactly right. You know, he's like, that's the wrong reason to do it. You know, I didn't know, it seemed cool at the time.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were like, this is so cool.
This is amazing. Can't move. We're all like, oh God, what's happening?
Right.
Yeah.
You don't realize like the reaction the body's gonna have. Like it's like when people say all the time they want to meet their star family in the physical, they want to, see the aliens. But when that thing is standing in front of you, your body is gonna have that fear response.
Totally. And also I knew there's a certain amount of like energy that's required to do that with I can't even pretend to understand what the gatekeepers know that were there. And I understood that. And so they were like, come on, we've got to like keep it moving, go and make your offerings. And so I finally got up the courage to go back, and it's deep in a cave, and and so I finally got up the courage to go and like bring my offering. And I didn't understand, not at a conscious level, I didn't understand the Cantumle tongue at that time. But it's kind of funny to me, because in hindsight, like I didn't know what they were saying to me. I was just like scared, and I was like shaking and giving them my offering. They're like saying these things, and they're like a certain height, and they're physical, and their hands come on. It's like, whew. I mean, hands, physical, come on. It was like it was offering. We were like offering, like it was spirits that were offering to them. They were like, in a bottle, and it was not, their body is not so much taller than that. And their hands come out, and they take it, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I come out, I'm like, oh my God. Natalie's cracking.
I would have like thrown it at them, like, and then hit them, and I'm like, get out of here, thank
you. And then now when I'm like when I reflect back on that moment, they're like, give me the damn bottle, like it's not like they were, they're not, they really crack me up when I reflect. I'm like, oh, that's what they were saying to me. They're like, just get it. What are you waiting for? Do it. I was like, okay. Just didn't understand. But whoa, that was I didn't know. I mean, that set into motion my Cantumle initiation. It nearly, I mean, yeah, it nearly killed me. I mean, ultimately, like went through the like the shamanic death, experience in San Francisco when I came back that physically was malaria, but it was that, and I didn't know that that's what enabled me to speak in their tongue. It got activated at the caves, and like I said, I just didn't know, but I mean, it was all meant to be. It was all meant to be, and through having that experience, it activated, and then when I went back to San Francisco, like I was in denial basically about having malaria, and then they don't usually like treat malaria in San Francisco, and so by the time I was there, I was like strong fevers and not able to see and not able to walk, and the whole thing was happening. I was dying. I was basically dying, and I was in denial about it. So by the time I was like in there, it was being in between worlds, like at the threshold, at the gate of death, basically. And they were telling me my whole body was full of malaria, and that I had a day to live, basically, like that was it. And then so they were miraculously able to bring this medicine in from the airport or something like that. Like they got it just in time. But while but while I was like purging and all of this was happening, I was talking to them when the doctors were out of the room, and I was like, what is happening right now? Because when the purging was happening, these weird squeaky sounds would come out, and I was like, what is happening right now? And they're like, initiation. And I was like, fuck, initiation. How many times do I gotta do this, And I was like, and then they weren't saying anything, and that's what happened. That's what ignited it, that set into motion this 6-month process of that they changed my this so that I could speak in their tongue.
Wow.
No, it's like a big question. You're like, what happened when you saw that? I'm like, it was like
Wow.
a whole thing.
And that wasn't the first time you were sick, right? Were you sick before that too?
Yeah, I mean, it happened the first time I went to Burkina, and then so that's the whole thing. It's like each time there's always the story of whatever illness. There's always the story in the astral world, and that's the thing for you all. I feel like you all are aware of this, and you all have that capacity to read into that. And that's my hope, is that we're stewarding a culture where people understand this. Any illness, there's a whole story in the astral world that's saying how that came into existence, and then if that is to heal, what like how to be with certain beings, or what needs to get set into motion with family healing, with ancestral healing to be able to heal that thing. But so the first time I went there, it was on the face. It was like appendicitis, and that, but clearly there was something way other thing going on, because it happened. I mean, what's with the timing? I mean, it was right when I was arriving in Burkina, and I was going down, like I couldn't walk. And meanwhile, I was having these strong experiences, and I was like laughing, and I was crying, and I was like in ecstasy. And people thought it was like, we need to get her out of the heat. Beautiful, and the people are so beautiful here. Like home, like, I think the heat is getting to her. When I was like seeing Maladama when he first arrived, I was like, oh my God, something is going on, I gotta go to the hospital. And and then it was a whole thing that changed me, because they were removing my appendicitis, or my appendix. And and I'm like laughing because I'm still remembering these, like being in the room with these African men, the doctors, I guess, or the people that were working with the doctors. And I was like, doing okay, not being afraid until we didn't speak the same language. And I'm like, are you gonna give me some, you know, something to, like, how do you call it, anesthesia?
Yeah.
We didn't speak the same language. I'm like, are you gonna give me something to make me go to sleep? Because you see all those like blades on the table.
Oh my God. Yeah. That I can I was like, I would have been terrified.
Oh my God.
Like, it was scary. Like I was there. I didn't speak the same language as them. All I could see was like it's a little bit scary, you know?
Yeah, a lot scary.
It was a lot scary. My friends couldn't come into the room. It was a lot scary.
Oh my God.
But so simultaneously, while the surgery was happening, this female shaman that I started my contemplative work with, she was working on me spiritually while while they were actually physically working on me. And it was all, I guess, meant to, not I guess, I know it was all meant to be like that. It's just changed me, and they changed me. It changed me being in their care, because I just could feel how much they cared for me and they didn't know me. And I was like, who cares like this? You know, and it just changed me. Like literally the nurse's name was Hope that was tending to me. I was like, oh my God. They changed, it restored my hope in humanity is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. And so by the time I came out of the hospital, I had such strong hope because that was my nurse, you know, he was stewarding. And I was like, am I the only person in this hospital? They care like that. And that's
Wow.
what I always had this feeling, despite the culture that I was raised or that I am raised in, and that I felt that I had a sense of what was possible with humanity, that there was no evidence for that, but I felt that. I was like, I know that it's possible. And people would think or tell me like I'm just being, you know, idealistic or something. And I went there and I was like, it's here, it's real, it exists. It's here. People care about each other so deeply, not because they're supposed to, because that's our humanity, you know. And so that just, it restored my belief in humanity. Really, it was super deep.
Yeah. I can imagine like being in that vulnerable space because I've never been to Africa. I haven't had any experiences like that, but I have similar things that I can relate to in my own life. I had this really strange experience in December 2019 or 18. When was that? Was it 19?
19. 2019.
Like scrolling.
No, 2018.
Yeah, it was 2018. Yeah. It was December. It was like right before Christmas. And I had been struggling most of my life with chronic illness and healing from that. I was on this self-healing journey. You know, I was diagnosed with all kinds of things like lupus and fibromyalgia and endometriosis and connective tissue disease, you know, all the things. Yeah, I was really, really, really sick for a long time. And, you know, of course, the medical field, traditional medicine failed me. They have nothing to give. You know, I went through all of the things. And so I started out on this journey of healing myself firstly through just like waking up in general, healed a lot of my emotional pain, anxiety, depression, like going through that process of healing from that. And then I really got into healing my physical body and through a natural means. So, you know, detoxing and diet, that kind of thing. And I was on that journey and I was struggling so much because I was just like, when is this going to work? Like, am I ever going to be pain-free in this lifetime? And when you're in that, it literally feels like it's never going to end. And this is just going to be for the rest of your life. And But I always had this knowing and this faith and trust and hope that I could heal myself, that I could heal from this, and there was freedom on the other side if I could just get through it. And I knew that I was here for more than just suffering. Like I knew, my soul knew that I had a purpose here, a mission to carry out. And so I was on that journey, like really struggling physically. I had healed some. I was definitely much better. It was about an eight month period from when I started like really detoxing. And that detox process was, I would say that was like an initiation, because it was really difficult. And, you know, the toxins were coming out on my face. My face was like bright purple, like scaly rash on my face and my chest. And it was, you know, that forced me to face a lot of my own things, you know, self-love and self-worth and body image, those kinds of things. I mean, so much. But in December of 2018, I had this experience where, you know, I had been like plant-based for that whole year, and I was like missing cheese. So I made some cashew cheese, which I had before, and which totally isn't the same as real cheese, but it was
pretty good.
It was pretty good. Yeah. And I was like excited because I was excited about the cashew cheese. So like, oh, this is great. Like finally something that's good. And so I made myself a salad with the cashew cheese and I ate it. And I like, was like just lounging on the couch. And all of a sudden my body started to itch, like this intense itching. And I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? And then I started to feel like my chest close up. And I'm like, oh no, this is serious. And I was scared because I was home alone with just my dog. So I'm like, I don't want to call an ambulance. My dogs will freak out. And then I'll have to leave them here, right? So I called my neighbor and asked her to drive me to the hospital. And it was like the slowest drive ever. But as it was happening, I knew there was something in me that knew there was a bigger reason for it. Wow. It wasn't just what was happening on the physical, because it was the strangest thing. Like I had never had an anaphylactic reaction before in my life to anything. I mean, I've had allergies in the past, but nothing like this. And it literally came out of nowhere. So I knew there was a bigger purpose and reason for it as I was going through it. And by the time we got to the hospital, like I felt myself leaving my body, and I jumped out of the car and I ran in there. Like my body was numb at that point. Like I felt myself leaving. And like, I was like freaking out, like somebody needs to help me, right? Because we always think we're prepared to die, like until it actually is happening. And you're like, and I was like consciously even thinking like, no, I don't want to die now. Like I didn't come here just to suffer and die. Like there's something for me after this, there has to be. So anyway, they took me back, they gave me the shot of epi. Like I literally purged everything. Like it literally went all over the room. And then like I felt better.
Like, thank you, bye.
Yeah, like it was like instantaneously. It was wild. It was wild. But they made me stay there for a little bit. They wanted to keep me, but I'm like, I have very little trust in the traditional medical community here in the US. So I'm like, no, I'll be fine. I'm just going to go home and rest. I'll be fine. They gave me an EpiPen and everything in case it were to happen again. But I came to the realization later that point in time was a potential exit point for me.
Mhm.
If my soul decided like we had suffered enough, you know, and wanted to just check out and go home, like that could have been that time. But because like I had already consciously made the decision, like, no, you know, like I know there's more to do here and we are going to heal from this. And so after that, you know, people, I had always been really fascinated by people who've had near-death experiences and like all of that kind of thing. Fascinated by their stories and what they experienced on the other side and why they came back and all of that stuff. And what I realized was that was a near-death experience for me, but because I had already made the decision that I was going to stay, that I didn't need to go to the other side to have that experience and then come back. Like I already, you know, made that choice, but without having to do that. So yeah, and so it kind of reminded me of like your story with the initiation thing, because after that, my whole world opened up and expanded. My healing accelerated like immense amounts. And as I'm saying that, I'm getting like full body chills.
I know, I'm like, oh my God, I know I feel it. Like all the angels that were with you when you were there, I felt a lot of angels.
Oh, yeah, I know I have always been very much guided and protected, or I would not have made it here. I wouldn't have done it myself. I know they've been protecting me because I almost, you know, died many times by my own hands. So, yeah, I know they've definitely been protecting me. And yeah, my whole world opened up, my healing accelerated. I started doing like, I really got into quantum healing, doing quantum healing, having my own regressions, healing my own trauma through meditation and connecting with my guides and asking them to help move this trauma out of my body, because I had had the realization that all of my chronic illness was just trauma stuck in my body. And so I had to clear that trauma, you know, little by little.
Oh,
And
interesting. It was the
it was the trauma.
oh, interesting. Because while you're talking, I'm gonna interrupt because I'm seeing the energy. That's sorry to interrupt. So it was the trauma that was it was the trauma that was stuck in your body that was creating the chronic illness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, along with, I mean, there were multiple things contributing, but a trauma was a major part of it. All the stuck emotions, right? All the stuck trauma. It was like just like molasses, like stuck in the body, causing the pain. And then, you know, add on top of that are all of our environmental toxins, so heavy metals and pesticides and chemicals, you know, all the things that build up in our bodies that are passed down from from our parents, you know, into birth. And I was the firstborn, so I got the toxic load from my parents. So, you know, there's many levels to chronic illness, but definitely trauma is a huge part of it. And I started to notice those patterns while connecting with other people in the chronic illness community. They're all super sensitive souls. Um, they all have a history of some kind of abuse and trauma in their lives. And those are the two main components. And so those two things, and, you know, plus the heavy metals, vaccines, that kind of stuff, the physical stuff. And so I noticed that it physically manifested in people through chronic illness. And, you know, they can be different sets of symptoms. So, you know, lupus is one set of symptoms and MS is another set of symptoms and fibromyalgia is another set of symptoms, all with the same causes, just to different varying degrees of what they're carrying. So, yeah, so during that year, 2019, I was a different person by the end of that year. I was like 50,000 different versions of myself throughout that year. And I never thought, like I was just telling Karen last night, I can't even remember anymore what it was like to be in that kind of pain. Like it kind of just disappeared from my memory, when that's all like I could feel and live for so long, was to be in that pain. And then one day you wake up and you realize you don't have that pain anymore, and you're like, wow,
Wow.
I really did heal from this.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's major. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And I was feeling before we all connected, and then I'm feeling it again too. What I feel, what the way like Natalie is practicing, and the way you and Karen are practicing also, it reminds me, it's, I don't know, because while you're talking too, it's like feeling this like influx of light, you know, it's like while you're talking, like, wow, yeah, it's all this like light coming in, you know, somehow that process is like, you know, priestess of light or something. It just feels like the strong light coming in. And there's some experience that I have, especially I'm feeling it today with us all together. It feels like there's some portal open anyway, but that it's but what I feel with the three of you too is that it's like the way that you're practicing, it's the way that healing can happen, like at the speed of light, or at the frequency of light, or something. That it's what you're saying too, that life doesn't need to be suffering. And on my healing journey, I mean, I, when I, in hindsight, that's why also what Natalie was mentioning, when I first heard about emotion code, I was like, whoa, you know, and then when I heard about like the quantum healing, you know, I was like, whoa, you know, there's these certain, like that and that, like, you know, some
Yeah.
of the things that I worked on healing on my journey, I mean, 10 years or something, it was like, how long do I need to carry this? And I just didn't know any other way. But it feels like it's with the shifting of the earth and everything that's happening, that we can heal, um, uh, in some ways, like in a more effortless way. And maybe those of us that are, you know, kind of tending to the shrines, yeah, we go through these, you know, kind of grueling,
Yeah.
like, okay, you know, grueling initiations basically, that enable light to stream more efficiently. Yeah, that's what it feels like. That's the way that it wants to be said. More efficiently. Light can stream more efficiently. Um, so for those that are willing to at least step into the, you know, healer's hut or the healer's shrine room, to at least acknowledge, I'm willing to, I'm willing to believe that it's possible that life is not about suffering. I'm willing to at least consider that. And then what's possible when we just consider it? I didn't even know that. I didn't even realize that until maybe just like a year or two ago. This was just recent that I'm like, oh my God, life is not necessarily meant to be suffering. It's like
Right.
a epiphany, I'm saying, in the last year or two.
Mm-hmm.
Do you
Right.
mean like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Same. Like I would look around at people who seem to be happy and functioning, without pain, without suffering. And so I definitely knew, I definitely knew it was possible. I just had this knowing that it wasn't going to be forever, that it didn't have to be forever. Of course, there were times where I'm like, oh my God, this is never going to end. Like, how is this ever going to end? There were always those moments, but there was just this deeper knowing and wisdom that it wasn't going to be forever. And like, as you were talking and talking about the light coming in, I also felt like that near death experience for me, it opened like almost like a portal and accelerated. The light was started to accelerating, coming through and assisting with the healing, because before that it just felt so heavy and dark. And also a big part of my healing was learning about the darkness. And I was carrying so much of it, reptilian consciousness and archons and, you know, entities and, you know, all of these things that we're carrying in our bodies and have no idea about. And so after that incident in 2018, like I had my own regression where I removed all of this stuff from my body too, you know, and I started to be led in the right direction. Like, okay, how do we do this now? And I was led to this healer who does this work, who I was actually inspired by. And she assisted me in my own session and, you know, removing my own entities. And because what I was feeling while going through my healing journey was that I would take 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. Something kept pulling me back. And I'm like, oh my God, what is happening?
I always thought it was me who would pull you back, but but the darkness would work through me to do that, because that would cause like a lot of stuff between us, and that learning of that we were being psychically attacked because we're twin flames. They don't want that.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I was just like, sorry, it's me pulling you back.
Oh, it's true. I feel that, Karen, what you're saying too. They don't, I mean, I can't say I've experienced a twin flame connection in this lifetime, but I have an inner knowing that that is so true, because it exponentiates.
Yeah.
The flame
Yeah.
exponentiates. Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's
that's,
interesting 'cause,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go. No, go ahead.
So that's a
No, go
huge
ahead.
part of healing from any kind of illness, chronic illness. Like you have to address those things, you know, and that's why like we're so passionate about remote spirit release and helping people to remove these things from there, because there's healing begins and ends on the spiritual level. You know,
Yeah.
you can't heal from anything physically if you're carrying around attachments and entities, like,
Totally.
Right.
you know,
It's
so
major. Yeah. It's so important.
yeah. So go ahead, Natalie. Sorry.
What I was going to share is that last year, it was before lockdown happened. It was like February of last year. I studied with, I'm trying to remember his full name, Sergio Mangana Ocelote, I think his name is. I'm pretty sure I'm getting his name incorrect. But
Sounds
I
right.
was studying psychic surgery utilizing an obsidian blade, and it's a really profound healing that is practiced in not even just Mexico and South America. He basically, the way he was teaching it was blending 2 different lineages of psychic surgery, and without having to sacrifice an animal in it, because traditionally you would when you do the extraction, you would have an animal who would be used to like as a vessel to hold the stuff that you're extracting out, and then you'd put it in the earth as an offering, traditionally in those ways. And so he did it with a different, not with an animal, and it was a really profound training, because there was a lot of remembering happening in that experience. And one thing that really just like blew my mind is when you're doing the psychic surgery, it's removing the addiction to suffering. And as we were like all talking about suffering, when he said that, I remember being like,
Oh, interesting. He talked about that too.
yeah. He's like, it's literally, he's like, most of the hesitancy with healing is the addiction to suffering. And so like, and it's a very dynamic, like you're moving your body, like it's not like a like hand me the scalpel. It's a very like dynamic, like and breathe and like in your face and like blah, blah, blah. It's like that type of modality that he taught, and it was like in your face, like, and release your addiction to suffering, and release your addiction to suffering, and like the person's like breathing that out, like,
wow.
and it I mean, I get chills just even talking.
Yeah, me too. I'm getting chills.
Yeah.
But
wow.
it and again, like I'm not practicing that modality. I learned it. Like it's there in my tool belt, but like it transformed the way I was doing emotion code, because I was like, that is it there. That right there, people are addicted to suffering. I can't even tell you how many times clients have come like, is it even possible to heal? Like, is it possible to heal this thing that has been like in my life forever?
It's an epidemic.
Yeah. And it's like, well, do you really want to heal? Like, do you actually really want to release it?
Yeah,
the
who are
question.
you? Like, who are you without this? That's the thing. People are fearful because they don't know who they are without this thing, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that was huge for me too, because I had identified so strongly with being a sick person. And you have to be able to let that go. And, you know, sometimes it's a process, sometimes you can do it like that.
It's funny because going back to the video that we did last time about talking about, in the Cantabile, we're talking about the English language. There's something about that like when you asked me to introduce myself and I was like fumbling of like what I'm like, who am I? I'm so like, I don't want to be in a box at this point because like I don't want to be trapped. And it's like, it brings up anxiety for me of like, I have to say what I am, but I don't know who I am. I'm still discovering that. But like, that's like one layer of this whole thing of like how we, particularly the English language is like, I am. It like makes you like, I am this box. I am this thing. I am this image that you have a preconceived notion of, and you can throw all your preconceived notions on the box that I am fulfilling for you. And because of that, there's some subconscious like dynamic that gets built between us because of this like unspoken about agreement. And it's like, if you can change that, if you can be like, you know, like what would it be like instead of people being I'm an alcoholic, what if people were to be like, I'm the spirit of alcohol is visiting me and we're out of reciprocity? Like how different would that change? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's huge. The way we identify ourselves is huge. Like, I don't even like to say, you know, I'm a quantum healing practitioner or I'm a remote spirit releasement practitioner. Like I don't like to say it, but I know that in our current reality, like people need to know like
your labels.
Your labels. Yeah. So I love when you said you're a multidimensional being, because like that's what I want to say. You know, like that's what I want to say. I'm a multidimensional being.
That's all.
That's it. Yeah.
I feel like when you're saying that, it's like multidimensional being anonymous or like anonymous. That's our, you know, our little like whatever. I'm like Karen.
I'm a multidimensional.
I went 10 steps. Wondering it. There's something, if it's okay to say this now too, though, that I want to honor that I feel like is present here is feminine, or the divine feminine, or however you want to connect with it. That energy is flowing here unobstructed. What I mean is that we're not in competition with each other, and I really want to like, you know, uphold that. That it's something about the way all of our energies unite or something like that. Like that's what I was talking about before too. There's something that I experience sometimes, like I feel this with Natalie, like when medicines grow each other, you know, there's like one of coming into what could be said as like self-realization or the expression of your medicine, something like that. And then there's when let's say when Natalie and I work together, I feel it exponentiates. We're not in competition with each other. It's like we, you know, can uphold each other and things like that, and it's real. And then there's something in the medicine is present here in a way that I can know that because there's ways that awarenesses start showing itself to me, whatever that was coming through about what they were talking about, like illnesses or something. There were things that they were starting to stream through, and I am aware that that's present because of this space, that I'm able to access that awareness. It's because of this space, you know, that we're all in together, the dynamic portal or something that we're all streaming from, or however exactly this is happening. I feel like Karen understands it.
Totally. I could see it.
Yeah,
like,
I could see it too.
I could see it. That's why I'm just like, totally see it.
Yeah, that's what I felt. Like, I feel like you see it.
Yeah, I do. I feel like it's just the energies are just flowing. There's no clash. It's just like as if we're adding to each other's like like that like when they're sewing. Like we're just adding to each other's like thing.
Yeah.
We're all knitters, energetic knitters.
Yeah, if it feels very open to me, like I don't feel any resistance at all, it just feels open, and yeah,
It's the portal.
portal.
Because it my body like won't stop sweating, and I'm like, just
I know,
Natalie. All like taking our turn, like, okay, you row now. Okay, I'm gonna relax now. Okay, you row now. But actually, something you mentioned right now, Liv, reminded me of something before you were speaking. You were talking about when we were talking about the illnesses that we've all experienced. I mean, we didn't say it like that, but I was having this like, oh, we've all experienced different illnesses, and like how curious of that. Like I've also had my appendix removed, and I was like, I don't know if we ever talked about that.
I don't think we've talked about that. I had the sense. I don't think we've talked about it, but I had the sense that you've had some like at the threshold experience or something, but we haven't talked about that.
Yeah, I mean, my appendix experience wasn't. I thought I pulled a muscle. I didn't realize.
Oh my god.
I was like, for sure, I pulled a muscle.
Wow.
My story wasn't quite like yours. They made lunch before going to the emergency room because I was like, oh, they're gonna make me wait there forever. I might as well just eat some lunch. Your appendix is gonna burst. I'm like, oh shit. I was like, so I ate lunch before I came here.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
5 hours before we do surgery on you. I'm like, okay.
Oh wow.
Wow.
But what I was gonna say is that I've had experiences I don't think even growing up as a child I had fevers a lot. That wasn't, at least as far as I can remember when I asked my mom about it, like I wasn't a child who had fevers a lot.
Oh my god, I had fevers all the time.
You did?
Yeah. That's all I remember. Fevers all the time. I was sick all the time. All the time.
I had, like, bronchial stuff. Like I would always have bronchitis. It was like clockwork every year. It was some kind of lungs was the thing that I would oftentimes have. And then so as an adult, actually now that I think about it, I think it was after when I had my appendix removed, is not that I would have fevers often, but I would have these experiences of fever, especially when I was out in California. That's when like everything got accelerated in all the ways. And I would have these like a week where I would be out with like a fever, and I would be taking care of myself and getting the liquids and stuff. But I'd go in and out of consciousness. I can't even tell you how many times I would have like wake up with like some kind of spirit being working on me, and I'd be like, oh, I had enough of it. Are you good? Okay, you're good, Mike. As you were. Continue. And then, when you were talking about, when you said December 2019, I was like, what? Because I had a really intense fever. I had done a ceremony with a friend. We were opening. We just did a ceremony of land, like praying for this project we were going to do together, working with women who have experienced like violation and abuse. And so, what was it called? Reclaiming sovereignty was a thing that we were getting together to do. And I was like, we need to do ceremony. She's like, yes, we need to pray on this, like connect with the land, like ask for support and all that. So that weekend we did that, and it was like very beautiful, like effortlessly happened. I get back to my house that Monday, maybe Tuesday. That next day I was out with fever. And like out and fever, like having this like in and out of consciousness, seeing these like spirit beings. I was like, what is happening? Actually, what is happening? And now that I'm like tracing back, I haven't really thought of it, but now that I'm tracing back, I'm like, oh, interesting, because after that my like healing practice really blew up in a good way, not in a like blew up in a good way. And I haven't been sick since, and I'm a person who like gets sick.
Oh my god, yeah, that happened to me
I've
too.
been like very conscious of like I make sure I take herbs, like I take mushrooms in powder form every single day. like I know my immune system has needed support. I worked with a um, um, Chinese herbalist when I was out in the Bay Area, and she's like, "Girl, you need your immune system, your whole body system. We need to like do some things because." It was before Mongolia that I started seeing her. And Liv, you probably remember all like the pills that I had. That's always taking every day. Like I couldn't take my Chinese herbs.
Just taking all the herbs. All the herbs.
But yeah, it's just interesting. I'm like, oh, and I remember I was listening to a podcast actually that trip that I drove up because I was going to upstate New York. And I can't remember the name of that podcast. And I think it was Charles Eisenstein. I think that's his name.
Eisenstein? Yeah, I think, yeah.
For the longest time, I thought his last name was Einstein, and he was like related until I realized I completely.
You're saying it wrong.
And now I'm like, don't know how to say his name, but he was talking about. They were talking about vaccines at the time in that conversation, and basically like. I don't know if y'all had chicken pox growing up, but I remember that being like a rites of passage.
Yeah.
Chicken pox. I didn't know that kids don't get chicken pox now. That's not a thing that they get. There's a shot now that they get that prevents them from getting it. But what he was talking about is he was talking about what happens to our brain when we have these like high fevers and these like illnesses that happen, how it exponentially
upgrades
growth. Yeah, it upgrades.
Oh,
interesting. And so now I'm all talking like, oh, interesting. Like that's
interesting.
What he was talking about is how like these illnesses that we in modern society are like, oh no, that's not good. Like that's not they shouldn't have this. There's actually what you're doing is stopping this like very natural process of acceleration of potential and like clamping it down.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah, I would get sick all the time too from childhood. I just remember always getting fevers and being delirious and staring at the TV and going into the TV. So I would have like those things, like just being in different dimensions while I was in a high fever, all throughout childhood, all the way till I had what I guess I'm assuming it was COVID last January 2020, and the worst fevers ever that I have ever had. And I was sick for like 36 years. And then I had that COVID. And then I haven't gotten sick like at all since. Like I didn't even get sick this winter. And I get sick all the time. So I don't know if that was like an upgrade or something.
Yeah.
But it was just weird.
What Spirit has told me is that COVID is an upgrade. And, you know, they want so badly to suppress it with the vaccine. Because the COVID upgrade is an upgrade to our connection with God, like an upgrade of the crown.
The coronavirus.
Yeah, it's an upgrade. Yeah, upgrade of the crown. And so of course they want to suppress it and make everybody afraid of it, right? So that they manifest even deadlier symptoms. And
it's probably the new chicken pox, rite of passage.
Right. Exactly.
We all ended up like there was 3 of us. 2 of us were in ceremony, and the other was her partner at the time, and we all ended up getting sick the same exact way. That it was Tuesday, I'm pretty sure, that we were all like suffering, like really, really suffering. And I remember my mom being like, "Should I take you somewhere?" I'm like, "I have a fever. What are they gonna do for me?" Like, literally, like I just need to be in this. Like this is an experience I'm in. I just need to like drink liquids and like put ice. I remember before no one else knew I was sick. I remember waking up, actually not even sleeping in the middle of the night and being like, my brain's on fire. Like I actually need to put ice. And like I went downstairs and put like ice on my head and like in the back of my neck, like putting ice.
Wow.
Like I need this ice. Like it was like, I mean, I run hot naturally, like you know, like, and it was just like too much. Like it was too much fire.
Wow.
And I remember we were talking about it because that was obviously before like, you know, quarantine and everything and like that. And we were like, I wonder if we had the coronavirus. Like I wonder if the 3 of us had that. And I'm like, yeah, but like what everyone's saying is like it takes 2 weeks before it manifests. I'm like, no, my body is like, no, I feel like that's what that was. Like I feel that it was like literally the most intense fever I've ever had.
Me too.
Yeah,
Yes.
me too.
Absolutely.
Because Karen and I had it around the same time, and I couldn't remember the last time I had a fever when I was a kid, you know. And this,
Yeah, I gave it to you.
Yeah. Well, you activated me. Yeah, you
You're
activated
welcome.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really yeah, I was like sick for like over a month, but I wasn't fearful of it, number one. And number two, I just like supported my body in all the ways that it need to be supported.
Funny that you're saying that, Natalie, how your mom was like, do you need me to take you somewhere? My mom came here and she's like, okay, I'm gonna go now. You're gonna be okay. She didn't even help me. I was just like, I'm fine. Don't worry about me. Just find my skeletons in a month. Like, let's see.
Oh God.
Yeah, and she's like, she left and she's like, lock the door. I'm like, thanks.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I feel like I don't know why you're well we've all been talking too. For some reason, Natalie, whenever you talk, I just keep like feeling Mongolia, and that what you were talking about also, what you were both mentioning about like the corona and this like the fevers and everything, and this kind of like the spiritual aspect of all of this, if we're allowing it. And also I'm trying to find words to like the sense that I'm having, but it's like my sense is, and also what I've had direct experience with through recent ayahuasca ceremonies, well, recent being, I guess that would be a couple of years ago, and also what we experienced in some places or spaces in Mongolia, is it feels really clear that there are higher forces that are it doesn't even seem like they're just kind of like rooting for humanity's, you know, evolution. It's like evolution is happening. That is what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And it's coming through us in these kind of feverish kinds of ways, and we're kind of like coming into alignment with it, or we're struggling with it. And it goes back to like the struggle or the suffering too. Like, how do we come into maybe like alignment with the like the epoch that is now already, you know, but by attuning our awareness to that what isness, by attuning to that like isness, it is already. It's not like when is it going to happen? It is already. It is already. Like the rainbows are streaming through and there's new colors. It is already. Are we noticing? Or are we addicted to the suffering? You know, or do we need to, this is what I noticed, our spirit brought it to my awareness the other day, is that like experiencing myself as an empath, that if there are like members of my human family that are suffering, that I feel the need to empath with that. How can I experience joy when, you know, feel the need to resonate or empath to show I'm with you? But what spirit was showing me too is like there need to be also the way showers who are courageously anchoring another frequency too, so that we can like give our family a hand, that we're anchoring a certain frequency and like, here, let me give you a hand if you want that, you know what I mean? Like they've been showing me that a lot lately.
Yeah, I guess because, you know, we don't do any good to people if we're suffering with them, you know? Like if we can give them that hand up, I think that's more helpful for them than if we like go down to their level and suffer with them, you know? Like we can show the way of like, this is what's possible. Like you can still be in joy. You can still live in your heart. You know, you can still heal through all of this and kind of like stand in the center of the storm and
you don't have to pretend to be anything else but yourself.
Right. Yeah.
And
while being authentic. Yeah.
I've experienced, I feel like I've worked with you all as healing facilitation. Karen, you were working with me remotely, but still we work together, you know, soul to soul, spirit to spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And I've experienced with you all, like, what kind of like quantum leaps are possible when we engage with really kind of epic healing facilitator. I've messaged Natalie before when I was traveling a lot. Not that I'm traveling now. Like travel like through the dimensions right now. But I would message Natalie or schedule sessions like in between travels, and I was like, I'm going through this particular airport. I'm really scared. It's bringing up my fear of authority, of a particular kind of authority. Like I'm really scared to go into that airport, but I need to go to that airport to get to my destination. And she would be working with me, you know, like literally when I was in flight and then about to land. And then I'm going and I would notice the shift. I'm going to like give my passport, and then magically it's a really easeful, like sweet exchange. All of these, it's all energy. It's all energy, you know, it's all amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful.
It's like I often say it's like this is what I know to be true from my experience, and so that's like what I share with like when people ask me questions. Like this is what I know, as far as I know, this is true. Because like you know, oftentimes I feel like people want the like quick fix without doing the work.
Yes.
Like,
yes. That. Oh my God. Yes.
I get that desire,
Mm-hmm.
and also,
I'm getting triggered.
and also, like I think of like me in my early 20s, right? And like I would like I mean, I did not have the awareness that I have now, but like I would always be like parts of myself that I didn't like, I want it to go away, like go away.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like create these other personas on top of that persona to like quiet that, but that part of me was still there. It wasn't until, you know, now to look back, I'm like, and so what I'm saying is that like you do the energy healing and it does clear a lot. Like it, I mean, I'm not gonna like I love energy healing. I'll be energy healing, ride or die. Like it does fast forward healing in a way that like if you were to do talk therapy, in my experience, it'll like might take a bit longer to get to that point. But it doesn't also take away that like when we're talking about a wound, for example, like let's say it's like the wound of abandonment. I'll clear all the trapped emotions and all the things that are there. Like let's do it. And also, how have you integrated that wound of abandonment? How have you like acknowledged that part of you that has been cut off who knows how long? And can you like bring her in or him in or they in? Can you like be like, hey, I got you. I hear you. You felt abandoned and you had really tough experiences that really just like shut you down, and I got you now. And what I experience with energy healing is that it helps release that tension, like that like the grit or like the mud, and then it gives you a little bit more space to have the clarity, like, okay, now I can do that like integration work of like calling back parts of myself and be like, hey you, it's been a while, like come back. Hey, I got you. Yeah, it's safe now. Like come back, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like those things together, like one doesn't negate the other. They complement. And that's like when we think of like holistic healing, like when we're talking about illnesses before, I mean, my mom had breast cancer in 2010, and it was really intense experience for all of us to like go through that with her. And it was very clear that there was
My mom too. It was she had a recurrence in 2010, breast cancer.
Yeah, it was when my mom got diagnosed with like breast cancer, I was like, this is emotional baggage. This is ancestral also, and this is emotional baggage. Like something has to change. And then I remember for me, like watching her go through that experience, like I had a very like, that's not gonna happen for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I get it. I see how I was learning those ways of taking on other people's things from like learning from my mother. I'm like, okay, no. Like,
Yeah.
not. And it's just interesting when you think of all the layers. We're talking about layers of things that affect you, that affect like they end up manifesting physically and all those, you know.
Yeah.
Healing's very dynamic.
It is.
It
It's
is.
very, yeah. Yeah. It is very complex. There are many layers to it.
So many.
Sure. Yeah. And you have to be willing, right? You have to be willing to do the hard work because,
Yes.
you know, you can't just go to a practitioner and expect them to heal you. Like the healing is in the self-healing. No one can do it for you. So, yeah, accepting responsibility, you know, taking that responsibility for yourself and all of the things you chose for this life and came in with to clear and, doing the work. Karen. What?
No, I'm just no, I know. I'm really like advocate for like healing yourself. Cause like Tina had the physical pains. I was more the mental, all mental illness. So all the mental illness I carried. So yeah, like coming from that, like, you know, that mental freedom, like the emotional, like mental slavery was huge for me. And, you know, like when you were talking about how you gather all your parts together, I did that too. I remember I was like in this trance and I invited all of my personalities to the table and we had like, we got together. I welcomed them into my home. They gave me all their crap. Like I had a box and I'm like, give me all your shit. I'm going to carry it all. And let's all sit at the table and be together. And I felt like that, that part, like it just all came together, like where it all integrated. Just that acknowledgement. They just want to be known that they exist. And that was it. So it's like, you know, I've done like multi-layered of like my trauma healing with Tina and, you know, through sessions, through parts work, through tapping, through, the emotion stuff, going into trance, doing my own like psychic surgery on myself and my brain, like, and integrating my ego. Cause even like I had a BQH session with Tina and my ego came forward. It was God and ego that came and Tina decided to talk to my ego instead of God, you know? So yeah, so I mean, like getting to know my own ego was really like what ended completely like the majority, or it was like a bulk of my mental slavery. So yeah, and now it just works like it has no problem being shown, but at the same time, I have enough of the tools to be able to tell it like it's okay, like we'll work together, like I hear you, and then it's fine, like it just comes, the body like just ends there. So I mean, like it took years for me to get to that point, and like we were talking about suffering, like I just never understood how people could be happy. I'm like, that's bullshit, right? Like that's not real. Like I go, I am suffering, and there's no way. I went through the path to be happy, and here I am not happy. So, you know, I had a lot of questioning. And then when I finally got to that place, like I woke up and being able to see life, like I said, through a different lens. And it was just like, wow, I want people to learn how to do this. Like, so, you know, developing my process, putting things in my toolbox so I could teach them how to do it because it's possible, right? And then that's why when we're saying cutting corners, I'm like, no, you can't cut corners in this. You can't. I mean, as much as I can help you, I can assist you and bridge you. That's it. You have to be able to walk over yourself. So that was just like really big lesson for me that yes, happiness does exist and fevers do stop. Yeah. So yeah, it's a good place to be in.
Yeah.
I hope, but yeah, I just hope people like understand that there's a way. That's like the big thing I want to share. You can be happy. You know, if I always say that, I go, if I could be happy, you could be happy. Like for real.
It's true. too. It's beautiful hearing your stories too. And it's true. It's just show like when one is willing to be dedicated to that and to, you know, to ignite whatever needs to be ignited. And it is so unique for each person.
Mhm.
Like you were saying, it's, you know, it might have been more like showing up in the mental sphere or whatever, where, you know, maybe with Tina it was like in the physical, or exactly like the physical body or something. um but yeah, it's true, but you're willing to like keep going and going and going. And now that you have the lived experience of, you're able to experience like the happiness in a real way, not in a detached or a compartmentalized kind of way where it's like, no, it's all good, everything's good, it's good, and we're kind of like, no, it's good, right, it's good.
All the time, right? Yeah. Okay.
The spirituality tells me that I'm supposed to be happy all the time, and there's no room for negativity. So being able to like flesh out, you know, I think that that's something that I noticed with the what can be like internet spiritual trends or something. There's like maybe like pluses and minuses to everything, you know,
Like the toxic positivity kind of thing.
yeah, that it's, I mean, in my personal journey with healing and also working with healers around the earth, that there is a real thing about positive and negative energy in the body. I've done a lot of work to actually like clear trauma. There's a real thing about, you know, energy that goes towards the negative. It has a descending effect, and energy that has like an uplifting effect. It's a very real thing. But then when it's like transferred via meme or something like that, and that's the way it's like social media or something, that there's the reoccurring theme that people see, that it's like must be happy. And when so many of us are raised as females, that it's like you need to be happy, you know, that's girls are good and they're
I
happy.
can't fake that. I can't.
No.
My face gives it off. Like I have resting bitch face all the time, so I can't fake it.
I know, I see.
Can't, man.
No, I get
Right?
it. Like,
I'm just like, they're like, try to be happy, and I'm like, like, this is as good as it gets.
When I rewatched our video from the first time, like I feel that we all have a similar way. It was entertaining to me to watch, because I feel that we're all like in our subtle ways, like looking for like, is this real? Is this real? Is this real? We're all reading each other like, check it out.
All our radars are on.
Yeah, it's real. I watched it, go rewatch it. It's super subtle, you know, like we're all like,
I know what you're talking about, because I'm a natural observer. So I was looking at everybody's squares and I'm like, okay, we're all in the same boat here.
Looking at Karen, looking at everyone.
Good. Yeah. Okay. We're good.
no bullshit here. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I definitely relate to that. You know, having to be the good girl, right? It's the whole, you're a good girl, right? You're a good girl if you help people, right? You're a helper, you're a nice girl. You don't have any opinions, you don't have any needs. You're just live to help other people, and that's what your job is, right? That's kind of like the parentified child role. So I lived that out most of my life, you know, like being a doormat, not having any boundaries with people, not having a clue what being a sovereign being means or is, or any of that. So yeah, I definitely relate to that, and that kind of toxic positivity, the love and light only kind of thing, where we don't look at our shadows, we don't look at the darkness, you know, that can be really harmful for people, because we're human, right? And we hold both aspects. We're not just light, we're darkness too. And we have to be able to find the balance. I think the key is finding a balance and not being afraid of the shadow, right? Because the shadow is part of us. So looking at that and validating that as part of who we are, and not just like rejecting those parts, right? The parts of us that we've been told to reject, that we've been told aren't good enough. So bringing them back in, like Karen and Natalie talked about, you know, bringing all of your aspects to the table, and finding the balance within, I think, is more important than being happy, you know, it's being balanced. Yeah. Karen, I wanted you to tell us about your dream that you had. Do you remember your dream that you had? Like, it was sometime this week.
No.
Mm.
It left. I wrote it to you, but I don't remember it. So if you remember it, that would be great. Because when you're talking about it, I was like,
Karen be like, off camera.
no, but I'm like, and then I remembered vaguely, and I was like, oh yeah, shit, Liv was there. I remember, but I don't remember what happened. Do you remember?
I don't remember either, but no, I remember because Karen like quantum jumps a lot and remembers in her sleep. So it was a timeline she was in where we were on some kind of like secret mission or something. And
oh, okay, great. Yeah, no, it's kind of coming back, but like,
please,
and
I jump a lot, so I can have like really interesting quantum jumps. Like really weird ones.
Yeah, we were on some kind of secret mission, but Karen consciously came into her body in that timeline, and Liv was like, "Oh no, she's in her body."
Oh,
and so we had to take her out of there.
Yeah, that's true. Because I come in, my consciousness comes in, and then like I remember, like just a side note, how that works. Like I come into the body, and I remember I had a dream. Tina and I were in an alleyway, and we were both dressed up in like our big hat, you know, like Carmen Sandiego. Do you know who that is? Okay, we were dressed up like that, like trench coats, a hat, and I had a pistol in my hand. And she was like, "Come," and I'm like, "Where are we? And what is this? Like, I don't know how to use this gun. Like, what is this?" And she's like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like, because we were doing something, but I'm like, I don't know where we're going, and what the fuck am I holding a gun for?
Who said that?
Me.
No, wait, who was talking to you?
I was talking to Tina.
Oh, okay, sorry, go on.
Tina was just saying like, "Come, let's go." Like, we're in the shadows in a dumpster. Like, I don't know what the hell we were doing. And I was just like, what are we doing? And yeah, she was just like, "Are you fucking kidding me right now?" So that's what I mean. Like my consciousness comes in and I don't remember what we're doing. So that's what happened. I was coming in, we were on a mission, and Liv noticed that I was coming to, like, or my consciousness, my aspect was coming into that aspect.
Oh.
And she was like, "Oh my God, like we have to like do something." I don't remember exactly the context, but as if you were like seeing that I was not the right person. It was me, like the awkward person, like, "What are you doing here, guys?"
Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah, we were on like another timeline. Like, you know, in our sleep, we're always working multi-dimensionally, right? I even wonder if we're in like some of these secret programs. But yeah, it's like we were on some kind of mission, and you saw that like in whatever aspect multidimensionally that we were working in at that time, you noticed that her consciousness from this life, like Karen's life right now, was coming into that. Yeah. So then she wouldn't know what to do, right? She wakes up in this mission, like
we're like a matrix. Well, exactly. Like that's why I say, like when I was holding the gun, it was a really little tiny pistol, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. Like, yeah, it was crazy. So I do have those things like where my consciousness, me now, goes into a body, and I was able to actually like. When I was having frequent things like that, quantum jumping, I asked myself, like now, I wonder what it feels like to have an aspect come into me here. And it happened. There was a time that Tina and I were like doing a video, and after the video, she's like, "You feel weird." I go, "Yeah, I think an old version of myself came in, like a younger version, like maybe from a couple of years ago, came in to my body." So it was a very subtle energy shift. Mm-hmm. So it's like the same thing. But yeah,
people more often than they're aware of.
Sorry?
I think that happens to people more often than they're aware of.
Yeah, that's probably why they have like different personality shifts, or like when you have mood swings like one to another. I do feel that is something coming in, like a version or something of themselves.
Did you ever notice, like, when you talk about things that happened in the past, like, you kind of go there?
Mm-hmm.
And I realized this like a few years ago. I'm like, oh, healing is kind of like time traveling, because you can actually go there and
Mm-hmm.
complete whatever it was that never got completed. That's like, that's
That's
why.
what I'm doing now. I'm ending like a ton of like what I feel like when I have experienced like past lives.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm ending their karma in this physical so that we don't return anymore. Like I don't want to come back and return and do any more of this. Like so like I'm coming in and holding like that space for my old, aspect or old past life so that I can complete it here for them.
Yeah, it gets really complicated too, because it's like every choice point or decision point we come to, timeline split off. Like we split off into different versions of ourselves, so it gets really wild and complicated of all those
Really
aspects of
complicated.
ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
Different timelines. Yeah. But didn't we end up like rolling down the hallway in a stretcher or something in that dream?
I don't remember that.
The ugly dream, or is this when the Liv is like, oh no, she's in her consciousness?
When Liv, yeah, I think
Liv.
we put her on a stretcher and we were like rolling her down the hallway or something.
Yeah, because I'm like, where are we, guys? What's happening? And why are you looking at me like that? No, like it's funny because like again, like my awkward self comes into these things and I'm supposed to be playing a role. And then I'm like, there's one time I had like, I always say this one, like when I was walking down, I came into my body and I found myself running in the rain in Manhattan, New York City. And I noticed that I was wearing like high heels, like stilettos. I don't wear heels. I wear like little shoes, like running shoes all the time. So I was just like, oh my God, I'm running and it's raining and I don't know where the fuck I am. And yeah, and then so my consciousness comes in and I don't know how to walk in heels. So I started to walk like a calf that was just born. It was horrible. Like, it was horrible. I was just like, this is not happening to me. Where am I going? But the memories of that consciousness merges with mine. So I knew that I was going to a baby shower, but I didn't know where it was. I missed that. Yeah.
It's so funny. I just flashed back to like the OA. Do you guys see that on Netflix, that show, the OA?
It's like,
I didn't
yeah.
see the OA, but I've since Sense8 and this whole kind of thing that we got going on is reminding me of Sense8 totally. And then that's what I was realizing why I felt called to talk. When I woke up, I was thinking about Sense8, and now I understand why. Because when you started talking about the dream, I was like, oh, I was there, and consciously I don't remember, but I can feel. And I just feel my energy. I'm like, oh, that really happened. Like I was really there.
Yeah.
I'm feeling. I'm like, God, no wonder. Of course, this is not like a part 2. We're gonna be like part 3, part 4.
That's
like,
what I'm saying. 237.
we gotta keep doing this.
I already quantum jumped there. I time traveled already there. Like I know what's happening. So we're gonna have to coordinate our outfits every episode.
Like keep having the conversations. Like we'll just switch channels and stuff. It'll be like your channel, my channel, whatever. Natalie's or however exactly it works. Different websites, whatever. But because it just feels like I felt this before, and then I feel this now. I'm like, it's not just, I mean, I love connecting with you all, but it's not just like love. Well, it is, I love connecting with you all, but clearly it feels like it needs to keep happening. Like in a there's like higher forces or something that's like, keep talking, just keep them talking. one of them is going to catch the stream, just keep them talking, and then it'll continue to stream through whatever exactly is. And then understanding that we're maybe always in tea time in the other world now or something, and then visiting each other's dreams and stuff. It's super interesting. And then what you all are touching on, it's just, yeah, I mean, clearly there's like so much more that's wanting to be expressed.
Yeah We've been going like 2
Yeah,
hours
so
now.
we can like close it. Yeah.
Wait, can I
Yes,
just
like,
dream?
the
I have to tell you what
multi-dimensional-
happened last night, and then
Yeah.
because what you were saying about like I wonder if we're in this the programs.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You were saying I'm like yeah, because I have many mission dreams all the time. In fact, 2 nights ago
Me
I had
too.
an Inception style dream where I was
Me
like,
too.
Wait, what? You had a
I
what?
always Inception style dreams
Yeah.
where you're dreaming of a dream, like you're dreaming in a dream in a dream.
so I like woke up 3 times.
Yes.
That happens to me too.
One night, and I woke
Oh
up.
God.
When I
I
woke
don't
up,
know.
I was like, wait, am I awake now? I was like, that's my first time. Like, am I finally awake? And I was like, looking, I was like, I think I'm awake. Okay, I think I'm awake. I'm awake. But last night I had a dream that we were in a classroom, which is a very it's not always the same kind of classroom, but it was funny when you said the Matrix, Karen, because Keanu Reeves was in the classroom.
I bet.
You said I bet.
It was him with like, the buzz cut when he used to have like the buzz cut, like when he himself before
Yeah.
making the and I remember what do I remember that I remember my sister actually is the one who wanted to go to this class because she needed credit for it, and we all decided to go with her. And so the 4 of us in this classroom with other people, and Keanu Reeves was sitting in front of me, but he was like pretending like he wasn't who he was. And I don't remember what the class was about. There was like some like it was almost like geometry, but like not geometry. Maybe it was like quantum physics. I actually don't even remember. But I remember looking at Liv being like, we should come back for the other classes. This is a really good class. And, like I knew my sister wasn't coming back, but I'm like, we should come back. And then before we left, the teacher gave us like a bag. Like everyone got a bag on their desk. And it was like a little like drawstring bag. When I opened it up, I like dumped it out. There's all these different like rocks and crystals in it.
That's what I have. I just took mine out.
Whoa.
With my daughter, like, because I was showing her, I was like, look at my bag. It has a string. And then I go, put your hand in, and there's crystals in there.
That's so crazy. Yeah, and then I was like looking at him like, whoa, we really gotta come back to this class. And then like Liv and I ended up going on a mission together to go. Yeah, there was a whole other side story.
and then you pulled me on a stretcher. Probably. All connected.
Yeah, that's wild. Wow.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just gonna let that energy go down now.
Do you want to say a closing prayer, Karen?
No, you could. I did it one last time. Or we can invite Liv to do it.
Liv, do you want to do it?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Okay. No, I'm just gonna laugh. You all got me laughing. Okay. Okay.
Whatever you want to do.
So we honor all of the guides and guardians that have blessed this space outside of space and time, the multi-dimensional existences, the quantum realities that are weaving through all of us, the ancient grandmothers that are comforting us through our synchronicities, reminding us that we are indeed in this journey together. So I say thank you to Tena for facilitating so beautifully, and I honor Karen as well. It is so beautiful to hear more of your journey, and I honor Natalie as well. It is also so beautiful to hear more of your journey. So may this continue, and may this spark the hearts of those who feel called to receive our hearts sharing and the energies that are transmitting through us throughout space and time. And may we all collectively remember the beautiful dream that's dreaming us into existence. Thank you.
I love that a lot.
Beautiful.
I got
Thank
tons
you.
of chills
Liv.
now.
I
Thank
know. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining us. This was so much fun. I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, episode 3. Stay tuned, everybody.
We'll do for March. We'll find a March date if that works for
Sure.
you.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Let's keep it going.
I'll host the next one.
Okay, great.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Thanks, guys. Mwah. So much love for you. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Take care, guys.
Bye, girls.
Bye.
Close.
Hold on.